There is a battle that is fought more often than any other in human history. It is silent, it is invisible, and it is waged every single day inside billions of minds. It is the battle between the person you know you could be and the person you are in this moment. It is the space between knowing you must go to the gym and the overwhelming feeling that pulls you to the couch. It is the gap between the brilliant idea for your project and the magnetic force that draws you to meaningless distractions. It is the chasm between the difficult conversation you must have and the heavy, invisible chains of procrastination that hold your tongue. We have given this feeling many names: laziness, apathy, lack of discipline. We treat it as a moral failure, a flaw in our character. We tell ourselves we are not strong enough, not motivated enough, not good enough. But what if all of this is wrong? See, what if that feeling, that heavy, paralyzing inertia you mistake for laziness, is not a weakness at all? What if it is a fundamental, deeply ingrained feature of how your brain is designed to operate? Today, we do not talk about motivational platitudes. We go deeper. We explore the raw neuroscience of "I don't feel like it." And then, I will show you how to force the first step. To understand this feeling, you must first understand the primary directive of every living organism, from a single cell to your own complex being. Conserve energy. Your brain, the most powerful and complex object known in the universe, is also the most energy intensive. It weighs only about 2% of your body mass, yet it consumes a staggering 20% of your total energy. For your ancient ancestors, living in a world of scarcity, every calorie was precious. Wasting energy on an unnecessary action could mean the difference between survival and death. So, your brain evolved a magnificent survival strategy, a powerful bias for inaction. Unless a task is critical for survival, finding food, escaping a predator, or promises a significant, immediate reward, your brain's default setting is to do nothing, to rest, to consume. That feeling you call "I don't feel like it" is the subjective experience of this ancient survival program running in the background of your modern life. It's not a moral failing, it is a biological imperative. You are not fighting a lack of willpower. You are fighting the ghost of 10,000 generations of ancestors who survived because they knew when to stay still. And modern neuroscience has given us a map of this state of being. In the early 2000s, a neurologist named Dr. Marcus Reitley and his team at Washington University were studying brain scans, looking at what happened when people were not focused on any specific mental task. They expected to see the brain power down, like a computer going to sleep. Instead, they discovered something astonishing. A specific network of brain regions remained highly active, a kind of baseline hum of mental activity. They named this the default mode network, or DMN. Think of the DMN as your brain's screensaver. It's the state your mind automatically returns to when you aren't actively engaged in a demanding task. It's where your mind wanders, where you daydream, where you think about the past or worry about the future. It is the brain's energy-saving idle mode. And this is the crucial part. Shifting your brain out of this default mode and into a focused, task-oriented state requires a measurable amount of energy. Your brain experiences this shift as a cost. There is a literal, biological resistance, a wall of inertia that you must push through to take that first step. So, when you are lying on the couch, knowing you should get up, you are not just being lazy. Your brain is physically in its default mode network. The thought of getting up, putting on your shoes, and exercising represents a significant energy cost. Your brain, following its ancient programming, resists it. It floods you with the feeling of "I don't feel like it" as a defense mechanism to keep you in that low energy state. This understanding is the first step to freedom. It allows you to depersonalize the struggle. The feeling is not useless. It is simply a mechanism. It's the friction of your biology. You are not a prisoner because you are weak. You are a prisoner of a highly efficient energy-saving protocol. But if this is our default state, how does anyone ever get anything done? What is the force that can override this powerful inertia? What is the spark that ignites the fire of action? The answer lies in a single, powerful power. A molecule that has been deeply misunderstood, but holds the key to breaking free. If the brain's default state is a prison of inertia, then the force that breaks you out is a molecule called dopamine. But to use its power, we must first unlearn everything we think we know about it. For years, dopamine has been called the pleasure molecule. We have been told it is the chemical of reward, the feeling of satisfaction we get when we achieve a goal. This is one of the most persistent and damaging myths in all of popular neuroscience. Dopamine is not the reward. It is the engine of pursuit. Imagine you are walking through a desert, thirsty. In the distance, you see an oasis. Dopamine is not the feeling of the cool water quenching your thirst. Dopamine is the feeling that makes you put one foot in front of the other to walk across the burning sand towards the oasis. The pleasure of arrival, the satisfaction of the water, involves other chemicals in your brain, like serotonin and opioids. Dopamine is the relentless, forward-driving force of wanting. It is the molecule of motivation. It is the neurological energy that overrides your brain's default mode network. It is the spark that says, move, act, pursue. This is worth the energy. And here is where the entire battle of I don't feel like it is won or lost. Before every single action you take, your brain runs a lightning-fast, unconscious calculation. It weighs the amount of perceived effort an action requires against the amount of dopamine it expects to be released. If the expected dopamine release is high and the effort is low, the decision is easy. That is why you can spend hours effortlessly scrolling through social media. Each new image, each notification is a potential microburst of dopamine for almost zero physical effort. Your brain says, excellent deal, proceed. But what about the difficult task, the important project? Your brain perceives the effort as enormous. It requires breaking out of the comfortable default mode, engaging your prefrontal cortex, and expending significant energy. And the reward? The dopamine release is not immediate. It is far off in the future. So the brain does its calculation, massive effort, delayed dopamine. The verdict comes back in an instant, not worth it. And it translates this verdict into a feeling. You don't feel like it. Your motivation is not gone. Your dopamine system is simply responding to the math. And in the modern world, we have systematically broken this calculator. Neuroscientists, particularly researchers from institutions like Stanford University, have highlighted this modern dilemma. Dr. Anna Lembke, in her work on addiction, explains how our constant exposure to high dopamine, low-effort stimuli like junk food, streaming services, and social media has fundamentally reset our baseline. Think of your dopamine level as a seesaw on a playground. In a natural state, it sits perfectly level. When you pursue a difficult goal and achieve it, you get a healthy release. The seesaw goes up, and then it gently comes back down, perhaps a little below the baseline, which makes you want to strive again. Lada's world is filled with stimuli that act like a giant, jumping on one side of the seesaw. The intense, effortless dopamine bursts from our screens and hyperpalatable food slam the seesaw down on the pleasure side. To compensate, the brain engages in a process called neuroadaptation. It downregulates your own dopamine receptors to bring the seesaw back to level. The devastating result: the amount of dopamine you get from normal, healthy, effortful activities is now blunted. That project that used to feel interesting now feels dull. That workout that used to feel invigorating now feels like a chore. The seesaw is so tilted towards high stimulation that the simple, necessary actions of life can no longer lift it. This is the core of the modern struggle. I don't feel like it is not just a feeling, it is a physiological state. It is the state of a dopamine system that has been overstimulated into numbness. We have been trained to wait for the feeling of motivation to strike before we act. But when our dopamine system is dysregulated, that feeling may never come. We are waiting for a spark in a room that is damp. So, what is the answer? We cannot wait for the firelight. We must learn to forge it ourselves. We must learn the art of creating the spark on command, of taking the first step even when our entire biology is screaming at us to stay still. This is not a matter of motivation. This is a matter of discipline. And it begins with a single, courageous act. We have established a difficult truth. In the modern world, waiting for the feeling of motivation to arrive is a losing strategy. Neurochemistry has been trained to devalue effort, To wait for motivation is to wait for a rain that may never come to a thirsty land. The Shaolin path teaches a different way. A master does not act because they feel like it. A master acts, and the feeling follows the action. The mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. If you allow your fleeting feelings to dictate your actions, you will forever be a prisoner of your own internal weather. Discipline, then, is not the art of feeling motivated all the time. Discipline is the art of acting when you feel no motivation at all. It is the skill of forging the first step. And to do this, we will use a tool of profound simplicity and immense power. I call it the 5-second strike. The next time you are faced with a task you know you should do, but the feeling of "I don't feel like it" is washing over you, you have a window. It is a window of approximately 5 seconds. In that window, the instinct to improve, the quiet voice that knows you should get up, or speak up, or start, is still alive. But after 5 seconds, something else happens. Your brain, in its infinite wisdom of energy conversion, will begin to fight back. It will start to generate excuses. It will magnify the feeling of tiredness. It will remind you of all the reasons why starting later is a much better idea. The 5-second strike is the method of acting within that window, before your mind has a chance to build the prison walls of procrastination around you. The technique is this. The moment you have the instinct to act on a goal, you will begin a countdown from 5 to 1. 5, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And on 1, you will move. This is not a negotiation. It is a command. And the movement does not have to be large. If you need to work out, the movement might be simply sitting up and swinging your feet onto the floor. If you need to write, the movement is opening the laptop. If you need to make a difficult call, the movement is picking up the phone. The action must be physical, and it must be immediate. This may sound too simple to possibly work, but you are not just performing a mind trick. You are executing a targeted neurobiological maneuver to seize control of your own brain. Let's look at what is happening in your brain during those 5 seconds. When you first have the impulse to act, a part of your brain called the basal ganglia, which is responsible for habits and action, is ready to engage. However, your prefrontal cortex, the logical, analytical brain, is the master of excuses. Its job is to weigh risk, calculate effort, and, ultimately, to support the brain's primary mission, conserving energy. If you hesitate for longer than 5 seconds, the prefrontal cortex fully engages. It slams the emergency brake on your impulse. It will rationalize inaction perfectly. This is the neurological origin of talking yourself out of something. The countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, acts as a form of cognitive disruption. It focuses your mind, interrupting the stream of excuses before they can form. It is a mental focusing tool that prepares you for action. Then, the most important part, the physical movement on 1, is this action is a neurological trigger. By moving your body, you send a powerful signal to your brain that the debate is over. You have overridden the cost analysis. This initial, forced movement can be enough to trigger the release of a small but crucial amount of dopamine and norepinephrine, the very chemicals of motivation and focus that you were missing. You are not waiting for the spark, you are creating it through friction. The purpose of the 5-second strike is not to finish the task. It is not even to do the task well. The sole purpose of the first strike is to shatter the inertia of your default mode network. It is to prove to yourself, on a neurological level, that you are in command, not your fleeting feelings. This is how you become the blacksmith of your own motivation. You do not wait for the fire to be hot. You strike the cold iron, and the strike itself creates the first spark. But a single spark is not a fire. To build a truly disciplined and powerful life, we must learn how to turn that first, difficult step into an unstoppable force. We must become the masters of momentum. You have been given the key. The 5-second strike is the tool you use to shatter the prison of inertia. It is the art of forging a spark in the cold darkness of inaction. But a single spark can easily be extinguished. A single step does not complete a journey. The final layer of mastery is not just about starting, but about continuing. It is about transforming that first, difficult, forced action into a fluid, powerful, and unstoppable force. So, final art we must learn is the art of momentum. In the physical world, there is a fundamental law, articulated by Sir Isaac Newton. An object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will stay in motion. This is the law of inertia. This is not just a law of physics, it is a law of the mind. Your brain in its default mode network is the object at rest. It is held in place by the immense gravity of energy conservation. The 5-second strike is the outside force. It is the powerful, deliberate push required to overcome that initial inertia and create the first moment of movement. But once you are in motion, the law changes to your favor. It requires exponentially less energy to keep moving than it did to start moving. This is the feeling of flow, of being in the zone. This is momentum. And the reason this happens is not magic. It is a physical process of construction happening inside your own brain. Every time you successfully use the 5-second strike to take an action, you are not just completing a task. You are sending a clear, biological command to your brain. This pathway is important. Make it more efficient. In response to this command, brain cells called oligodendrocytes go to work. They begin to wrap that specific neural circuit, the pathway for getting up and going to the gym, or opening the laptop and writing in a fatty, white substance called myelin. Myelin is like the rubber insulation around a copper wire. It prevents the electrical signal from leaking out, making the transmission faster, stronger, and more automatic. This process is called myelination. It is the physical embodiment of building a habit. The first time you force yourself to act, the neural pathway is like a faint trail in a dense jungle. It takes immense effort to push through, but when you do it again, the path is a little clearer. The 100th time you do it, it is no longer a path. It is a paved, 6-lane superhighway. The signal travels so effortlessly that the action becomes nearly automatic. This is why discipline gets easier with practice. You are not just building character, you are literally building a better brain. You are laying down the physical infrastructure for high performance. The willpower you feel is the result of a well-myelinated neural circuit that no longer requires immense energy to activate. You have transformed the very physics of your mind. Let us retrace our steps. We began in the prison of inertia, believing our laziness was a flaw in our soul. We learned it was simply the brain's energy-saving default mode. We discovered the truth about dopamine, that it is not the molecule of pleasure, but the engine of pursuit, an engine that our modern world has broken. We were given the key to the forge, the 5-second strike, a tool to create a spark of action even when there is no fire of motivation. And now, we will let each spark we create builds a physical road in our mind, making the next journey easier, faster, and more powerful. So, the next time you feel it, that familiar, heavy blanket of "I don't feel like it," that pull of the couch, that voice whispering "do it tomorrow," I want you to pause. And instead of labeling it laziness, I want you to give it its true name. A choice. It is the choice between remaining an object at rest or becoming an object in motion. It is the choice between staying in the low energy default mode or investing that energy to build the person you intend to be. You were never meant to be a victim of your fleeting moods. You were designed, from the cellular level up, to be the architect of your own mind. That feeling of resistance is not a stop sign. It is the starting line. It is the raw material of your own becoming. Fiction is not your enemy. It is the very thing you use to create the spark. The question is no longer how do I find the motivation to act. The question is, what is the smallest physical movement you can make in the next 5 seconds to honor the great and worthy purpose of your own transformation? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gratitude.